Hi class, welcome back to Writing 201. Today we will focus on character, more on the advanced side of things, focusing on dynamics. Dynamics in your storytelling is crucial, especially when you become more and more practiced and you start to realize that, you know what, I can't just make my primary character's interaction strong. It's not enough, because you'll notice that your characters in the background become ghostly and just noise, and your readers doesn't give a shit about that, and you have to make them care about the world around you, not just your primary characters but the secondary ones as well, because without being multifaceted in your dynamics, then all you have is the realism behind your primary characters, and that's nice. It's still a good skill that you have, but without learning how to strengthen and keep the integrity of every aspect of character in terms of not just their function but where they stand in the story, then you don't have much. You need more. You need more than just strong main characters, because it's almost like you have two people in one room and everyone else in the room is kind of a cardboard cutout. And those stories that I know exist are pathetic. Honestly, stories that have only good main characters are pathetic, because that means that the writer thinks, oh, well, my readers only like the main characters because they're the most relatable. It's like, yeah, but that's because you made that choice, or you only understand that aspect of character building. You have to understand that even in your personal life, there are people indirectly involved in your life that play a role, and you might not even realize it. You'll probably think, I don't like politics, but I'm not connected to any politician. No, but you do live somewhere where there is a government, and in that government are politicians. And you may not delve into any kind of political news, but you do have to pay for things. You do have certain rules that you have to abide by. You know, there are lawmakers in all parts of the world, and those lawmakers make rules that every society, every civilization has to abide by, whether they like it or not. And that's what can create difficult circumstances for people. And in many ways, you know, it depends on the country and the culture and what the people at the top of the food chain want to see in terms of what the lawmakers are obligating society to abide by. But that's a whole, you know, discussion to have, and that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about, you know, just how the hell do you make everything interesting in terms of the three levels, I guess, of characters. So primary, secondary, and background. So how do you do that? Well, you start with a thought process that I call see life as an insane puzzle party. So what does that mean? What that means is, let me put it to you this way. You are in a ballroom, okay? And every person that has a direct or indirect function in your life is there. And your goal is to basically interact with every single person and get to the other side of the room or the back door or wherever you want to exit. Now, why do you have to do that? Well, because you have to see, okay, why does this person have a direct connection with me? Why is that person indirectly or even completely remote from me, but somehow they're in the room? That's what you have to start asking, is like, okay, here's this childhood friend of mine that I haven't talked to in decades, and suddenly they're in my life and then they're gone. Well, you have to ask yourself, well, why is that? Why do people come and go in life? And think about the memories you have of that person, and what was different back then that caused the change in dynamic and proximity of how you interact or don't. That kind of thing, you know. You have to really... This is the only time in writing process that you have to be broad in terms of understanding why the fuck do I need to understand this? Why do I need to know how my twice removed cousin has some kind of connection to my life, and how can I incorporate that into my writing? And well, to cut it short, really, you just have to understand that when you're building a world, I mean, like fictionally speaking, you are creating a new version of what you understand in your life, especially for the people who are indirectly connected to you. So let's say you're going into a busy city and you're just walking with a friend or a girlfriend or lover, whatever, or even family, and you see something happen, like maybe someone's chasing someone else, or you see cops whiz by and there's a car accident, or someone's drugged out and just laying on the ground. That may seem like just chaos around you that has nothing to do with your personal life, but it has to do with life itself. Meaning you're in a new environment and you have all of this tangible material that you can actually use. Because it may not be happening to you, but it's happening around you. And it will seem like just a memory, and that's very quick or lengthy, but it is still something. So that's what I mean by see life as an insane puzzle party that you have to solve, and see every person, even the insignificant ones, as an important piece that you have to kind of not really decipher, but just remember what that piece is, and start asking questions. How does this affect me? How does it affect you? How does it affect other people? You know, that kind of thing. And I could go on longer about that, but really it's all about the effort that you put in to understanding every aspect of socialization in life. And not just socialization, but also the function that other people have in terms of how you feed yourself, how you pay your bills, how you find love, how you go through heartache, how you make friends, lose friends, cut people out of your life, bring people in your life, how you deal with, you know, loss or even greed from other people that you wish wouldn't be so greedy towards you, that you trusted. That kind of thing. It's just, life is just a never-ending chaotic ride. And that's what you have to really be okay with understanding and incorporating into your writing. Now, if it's the opposite for you, where you don't have chaos in your life and you have a very calm, serene kind of environment, you can still use that. You know, if you live a life where pretty much all of civilization is removed from you, where you live in the cabin or whatever, that is still an environment that you can play off of. And also imagine, what would life be like? And that's when you have to start. When I say imagine what life would be like, I mean, how would it be outside of your comfort zone? So just hold on to that thought, okay? Alright, let's move on. So next, pause the video if you have to. Body language. Now we've probably talked about that. I know I always talk about body language, but I want to get a bit more specific about it. So, as someone that's not really an extrovert, and I'm not really introverted, it's more like I've become more picky over time about who I interact with, because I've observed body language more and more over time and have been able to decipher who I want to be associated with and not associated with. And there's just something about body language that has always interested me, because you can really tell someone's comfort zone and the meaning or even the layer behind what they're actually saying. So let's say someone is mad at you and they're yelling. Look at their eyes. Look at how they're holding their ground and how they're talking to you. Sometimes someone is getting in your face and it may seem scary, but look at their footing. I know that sounds weird, but sometimes someone is shouting from up here, okay? And it sounds like it's just coming out and just attacking you. But if they have a weak stance, then you know that it's actually out of fear. They're not yelling at you out of intimidation. It's because they're scared as hell and you are a threat to them. It's not that they are tougher than you. It's that they don't know how else to intimidate you in order to protect themselves. Now, a tough person, someone who actually has mental strength, will not yell at you. They'll be firm with you, but look at their posture again. Usually, someone who is in control of themselves and doesn't feel the need to yell is standing like this. Very firm, and they're making strong eye contact and they're not wavering, but they're really listening, because after they talk to you, they know that you're going to have to say stuff, and they will let you because they are confident enough to listen to you. Because even if you're right or wrong, they will keep themselves in the position of power. So they will remain statuesque and good eye contact, and their word choice will be very direct but also kind of neutral, because they don't feel the need to distract you. And that's when you get to kind of play the game with them. You might be not getting the answer you want to hear or the interaction you want, but because they are being more tactical, then you get to be tactical too. Now, not a lot of people can do that. A lot of people, when they're in trouble, whether it's at work or in their personal life or they're going through a breakup, I don't know, they typically don't know what to do because they see anger as anger. They only see that. They only see the emotion. They only see the fear the person is trying to strike into you, or the firmness in their glare or even their tone. And that can scare people. And that kind of interaction can really help you build not just dynamics in your main characters, but also any kind of antagonist that you create. So that's why body language is important, because even if you see someone having a conversation with someone else over there, like way away from you, but you can still see them, look at how they're gesturing, because you can't hear them unless you have freaking supersonic hearing, but you can see the change in their dynamic, how they're not just talking, but how they're maintaining their integrity. So, for example, let's say two people in positions of power, or even just, a couple having coffee or whatever. Look at how they're talking to each other. One person could be very, gesturing, very, using their hands a lot, and the other person could just be sitting casually or even firmly. That's when you can try and piece it together. Even if you don't know what the conversation is about, you can tell who is calm, who is in control, and sometimes the person being the loudest is not in control. It's the opposite, because they're so afraid of if they're in trouble or if they're not going to get the answer they want to hear, that they become more vocal, they become more animated and physical, where the other person could just be like, you're not winning, you are losing, and I'm going to make sure that you understand that. And it doesn't have to be that example, but observing body language from a distance, and it has nothing to do with you, is still unique and a good skill to develop. So just keep that in mind. Okay, number 3. Information through social dynamics. So what does that mean? well, it's kind of blurring with other things, but I can make that specific. Okay. So, when I say information through social dynamics, I mean take notes, mentally speaking. Don't be some weirdo and just be like, oh, yes, interesting. Don't do that. What I mean is, you have to understand that every form of conversation has a different dynamic, a different function. So, how you socialize at work is completely different to how you interact with others outside of work, because at work you're in a controlled setting, and that means that you're putting on a different mask, and you hide certain things from people, because what if things going on in your personal life is so, I don't want to say devastating, but just you don't want to talk about it at work, that you end up talking about more trivial things at work. That's a different kind of social game, where when you're at work, you're not trying to befriend anyone, and even if you do, it's still in a work aspect. You're not actually trying to develop a sincere friendship, because the thing about the workforce is that even if you have a career and you want to stay there for as long as possible, the relationships you build there, you're still interacting with that person or persons differently than you would outside of work. Now, if you hang out with them outside of work, sure, yeah, that's a mixed change. But usually, the person that you're associated with at work, it's still just how can I put it? It's not the same. It's not the same as how you talk to your family or your love partner, your life partner. Sorry, it's just different, and that's what's so important about being aware of different kinds of environments and people in your social life, because social life doesn't just mean outside of work. It's at work, it's outside of work, it's in your hobbies, it's even, the government, and you see how they are in the, Chamber of Commerce kind of thing. So it's important to understand that social dynamics is not just involving you. It's involving others and how they interact, and how that aspect of interaction can affect your life. Because what if the people in government are having a big discussion amongst themselves, or even publicized on TV? That can really affect social change. So this is more of a personal choice. You don't have to do this. This is just something that I thought of before. Work-life habits and decisions. So the thing about change in life, really, is it all comes down to your habits and life decisions, be it at work or in your personal life. And that can really affect what kind of social dynamics you have in your life. And that's what I mean by when you cut people out of your life because they're toxic, or they did something to you and it's just not working out. That can really change how you see people and how you see yourself, how you want to see yourself, who you want to be associated with, who you don't want to be associated with, that kind of thing. So that's pretty simple, really, but just think about it, okay? Now, lastly, the how and why perfecting multidynamics is important. So just think about this, please. You can't just think about the richness of your main characters, because even though that is the one thing that your readers are going to remember, you also have to think about, well, how did they change, and what or who made them change. And that's why maintaining strength and integrity and dynamics in other characters, meaning your secondary and background, is important, because how they even change can affect change in your main characters. Now, everything is connected, and we all know that as writers. But the importance of making sure that you don't lose the reality of your secondary and background characters is, it all comes down to what role are they playing in the story, and what role do you want them to play by the end of the story. You know, they may not have an actual character arc or as much attention as the main characters, but they're still there. That's what I'm trying to say. They exist. You have to understand that idea, is that they exist. They may not have as much screen time as your main characters or be as much in the forefront, but they're still there. Now, who you vocalize in your background characters throughout the story might not be the same people, but they will still be in the same world. So that's something to think about too. So how do you do that? How do you master being multifaceted in your dynamics? Well, really it's just about what I said before. Thinking about how every person in your life directly or indirectly affect you. I know I've said that so many times, but it's just so important to really think about all this stuff. So keep all of that in mind, okay? Just really open your mind, really look beyond what you see in front of you, and ask the questions, and see the people you don't really see as some kind of golden nugget of information and tool for your story writing. Not just writing your story, but also understanding your own life. That's one thing I've always found fascinating about some writers, where there are some writers that don't read and that think black and white. And I mean, if you're a nonfiction writer, that's fine, but as a writer, you have to ask questions. You just have to. You have to ask questions, because that is our jobs. That is our job as a writer, is to ask the questions that most people don't ask. The 9-to-5 grunt worker, the black and white perspective of life, that kind of thing. So, I hope all that was of use to you, and see you in the next class. Good day, and happy reading.